Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Dusting Off Warlord Saga of the Storm, featuring a Brikta, the Rhino Legion, a Nothrog Warlord. This Warlord also came out in the Champions set alongside Trevain Cartwright. I don't think she's anywhere near as good as Trevain Cartwright. I think Trevain Cartwright's pretty solid. Brikta, I don't think she's bad. She is so strangely designed, and yeah, but she is very Nothrogy, and I love Nothrog. So I actually almost I debated actually making this episode a two Warlord episode, splitting it between Brikta and Lord Winter because there is so much overlap between their two decks. I did decide against that because they are different factions. So um, yeah, so Brikta is a 5th level evil Nothrog fighter. She has only one attack at +7 and 12 armor class. 12 is really bad. I want to say 12 is the lowest non-planar fighter armor class you can get as a warlord. +4 skill also. Brikta. She does have 4 hit points, which is kind of nice. Towards 4th edition, the fighters started getting 4, but there were a couple in the past that also had 4. So she's a barbarian. She has power attack +7. She may use the power attack feat any number of times per turn, and for each wound on Brikta, she has +3 attack and an additional melee strike with the base attack of +3. So again, this is just a very bizarre warlord on so many levels. She only has one strike. She starts getting more strikes as she starts suffering wounds, but her AC sucks, and four is probably not enough hit points. Let's be honest. Her skill is so low that she's gonna fail most skill checks, which is unfortunate. Even with her power attack bonus, she still needs a 9, which that's not good. And so for her to really be at her full potential, she has to be kind of on death's door, and she's fragile. So, yeah, that's okay. There are ways to make this work. So, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit here to kind of what the deck is built around with her. So, we have the Excessa Sword here, which is kind of a cool weapon. Gives you +1 attack, which -1 armor class. Neither of those are super relevant for Brikta. After this fighter hits with a melee strike roll, this is a react, so this is optional. The strike inflicts 2 additional wounds. Inflict 1 wound on this character. So there's a lot going on with this. First of all, between her power attack, which she has about a 50-50 shot of making, and the Excessus' 2 wounds tacked onto the 1 base, Brikta is throwing out melee strikes with just this weapon that are doing 4 wounds apiece. Even characters, multi-hit point characters that are backed up by healing, unless it's healing like Fulfill Destiny or Cure Lethal Wounds, Brikta cuts through pretty much anything in 1 hit. You have to be like a dragon or something like that for her not to just one-shot you, which is pretty awesome, and even them, we have tools for that. But the other thing, too, is that Excessus is wounding you, and this is important on when it's wounding you. It's wounding you usually while she's attacking, and if you gain additional attacks, additional strikes on your attack stat while you're attacking, you do get to make the extra strikes. I'll quote the rule source. I probably should have had that handy, but quality production values here. So what this does is just this one sword with Brikta. This does allow her to kind of go to all the way to the limit, to as much as she can take without dying, and all it takes is this one item. So I don't really know what kind of Brikta deck I could actually make that didn't use Excessus. I've tried a couple, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it just seems really, really well suited for what you have to do to make Brikta do anything. So, as far as starting characters go, so we're going to start a copy of Rangok and a copy of Krazen in rank 2. So I've covered Rangok multiple times. I play him in a lot of decks. I think he's really solid. He just spends to move an adjacent spent character. This is important. A forward 1 rank. And yeah, and Krazen has some pretty insane stats for a 2nd level fighter. +7/+4 attack, amazing. 13 armor class. It's higher than Brikta's. +4 skill. It's equal to Brikta's. Brikta. And after Krazen performs an attack, you have to inflict a wound on one of your Nothrog. Now, it can be him. It can be some other chump. You can also use this to put wounds onto Brikta if you don't draw the Excessus early enough. Yeah. And then in the rank 1, we have 2 copies of Gunda and a copy of Trug. I've gone over Gunda before. Fairly durable. Getting that extra hit point and level means he sticks around for a little bit longer, and you can actually do some things to keep him around if you draw them. But Trug is kind of interesting. His stats are not amazing. They're not terrible. But Nothrig in the rank, sorry, not Nothrig, characters in the rank behind Trug have the ability to spend order, perform a melee strike that may target an additional rank away. He basically is hitting pikes out to the people behind him. So what you can do, if you don't draw enough movement, say you only draw 1 movement card, you can use that movement card to move Brikta up to rank 2, and then she can spend to use Trug's ability, and then Rangot can shove you forward. It does get you to rank 1, and you did do something on your turn. It's also a way to get Krazen to project damage, because his trait only works when he makes attacks, and Trug is only making you make a strike. So you can use that if you don't want to have to inflict wounds on your people. So that's kind of interesting. As far as other characters go, so we're going to do 3 copies of Karag. Caregrag, I don't even know how you say this. Caregrag, whatever. This guy, all he's in here for is if you play him on turn 1, he draws you a card. He's also a body. So try to help you get some of the critical stuff early. If you don't draw him turn 1, he's just a body. We've also got 3 copies of Urg and 3 copies of Uthanax Tower. These are pretty much just in here to try to keep Brikta alive. So, because Brikta, you're constantly on the at least my games with Brikta, she's constantly on the verge of dying. If I've had many a game where I get kind of carried away and I decide I am going to go up to my hit points, my max hit points -1, and something random wounds me on the last strike and I die, and it's awful, but it's funny too. So Urg can redirect strikes to himself, and then again, Uthanax Tower, characters adjacent to it get +5 armor class and replus +5. These are not super great at keeping Brikta alive because of some of the other stuff we have in here, but it is better than nothing. So, and the repost can be helpful too. If she's got, say she doesn't even have her full load of wounds on, if she's got just 2 or 3 wounds on her, I mean, the repost is, if she makes it, I mean, the attack bonus is still really, really high, and if she's holding excesses, it can be a really bad counterattack. So that's pretty cool. We're also running 3 copies of Python or Phython. I'm going to say Python. This is a druid who you can spend him and inflict a wound on a character in your army to remove a wound from an Nothrig in your army. Actually, I think the updated card has slightly different wording. These are campaign edition versions. You can use these to do 2 things. One, you can use them to put wounds onto Brikta. Again, if you don't draw the excesses and you need some way to get wounds on and your opponent's just not doing it, these are also a way. You can also use these to try to keep Brikta alive if it's not looking good and you're like, okay, I got carried away, I need to remove some of those wounds. You can use Python to do that, and Python is also a body. And then we also got a copy of Torn Yasar because it's ancients, and yeah, you're gonna want some specific things. Also got 2 copies of Turgon here. Turgon is a 3rd level cleric. He actually has kind of not great stats. I mean, his attack stat's great. +2 skill for a 3rd level cleric is very odd. Nothrigs that are adjacent to him have +1 hit points, so you can kind of throw these next to Brikta, and it's like 2 extra hit points. He has his Nightfall ability. If it's not the first turn, you put a charge on him, and it buffs your Nothrigs. That is very not relevant for Brikta. Brikta needing to hit things, yeah, between her own ability to buff her attack stat and between the other cards we're playing, that's almost an afterthought, but I guess it's better that he has it than doesn't have it. And then rounding it out, we've got a copy of Grease. Grease is a monster. He's a 4th level wizard. You can keep him spent. This guy's got actually a pretty good ability to use with Brikta. He has a spend react after a Nothrig is wounded, ready the Nothrig. That's one part of it. The second part is, until Grease readies, stuns, or leaves play, the Nothrig gains the ability, react once per turn after an opposing character wounds this Nothrig, ready this Nothrig. I mean, this is potentially 2 readies off of a single card. The second part, the react that the character gets, that has to be an opponent wounding you, but you can ready off of you wounding yourself with the first part to trigger this in the first place. So very, very, very good. I should probably be running more copies of that than 1, because it's a really strong ability. As far as other toys go, so one of the reasons why I think, Turgon's, his attack buff, I think, doesn't really matter is because in addition to Brikta's own ability to raise her attack stat, we're running 3 copies of Barbaric Rage and 3 copies of Primal Rage. This is mostly overkill until it's not. It's overkill until you need it. And then it's like, yes, that is right. That dragon that you buffed, I still one-shot it with Wounds to Spare. And it is absolutely glorious when it happens. Even some of the characters who can get really, really tanky, like Zod, you can punch through Zod like nothing with this. When your attack stat is in like the 40s and you're just like, yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. Primal Rage also, this is giving you +5 attack, and it's giving you the extra wound. It's giving you an extra attack, but because it's wounding you, this is almost giving you 2 extra attacks. So, and again, she's a barbarian, so she gets the extra wounding. Yeah, Barbaric Rage is -5 armor class. That's one of the reasons why the Euthanax towers are sometimes not super efficient, because normally buffing her armor class from 12 to 17 would be really good, but a lot of times you're probably doing things to yourself. Excesses makes you lose 1. Yeah. Brikta's a blast to play. Your armor class sucks, and you just hit like a freight train. It's great. But then also, because one attack is often, it's not enough. You want it to be enough, but it's not. We're running 3 copies of Hero's Gambit. So Hero's Gambit is an order. It's a level 1 action. It's a level 1 fighter action. Perform an attack without spending. These strikes inflict an additional wound. Kill this fighter, which may not be canceled. This is the most hilarious thing. When Brikta's got like 12 hit points and she's got 10 wounds on her, and you're like, okay, everything's done. And no, it's not. And then you Hero's Gambit, and you get all those swings again, and they're all doing an additional wound, and you don't need to do the excesses to do it. Oh, it's beautiful. In addition, Krazen can play this too, which is kind of nice, because his attacks are pretty solid. +7 and +4. You'll still have to wound one of your guys, but whatever. Actually, I don't know what the timing is on that. I don't know if Krazen dies before he puts the wound on, or if he... Does it matter? Or could he put the wound on himself and die from that, rather than the... yeah, I'll look it up later. As far as movement goes, I'm running 3 copies of Close Ranks. This is a react movement, which I do like that it's at react speed. It's also level 2, so the Krazens can play this to rush up to the front. And then we're also running 3 copies of Stubborn. Stubborn is 2 things in 1. I'm a really big fan of this card. It's movement to move forward, but it's also spend, stun, and movement protection at the cost of a wound, which is usually not too big of a deal. I say that, but I've had many games where I can't do that because I'm at my capacity. Yeah. It's very easy to get greedy with Brikta, and it's a freaking blast when you're doing it. If you don't like Stubborn or whatever, you can play... There's a couple of things you can do, too. You can do Beyond the Grave, which is, again, a form of spending and stunning protection. The problem is her skill sucks. She needs to roll fairly high to make this. The upside to that is the first react on Beyond the Grave. Before this fighter is killed, perform a melee strike. If this fighter is level 4 or higher, he gets power attack +7 for the strike. Kind of like Hero's Gambit. This can just be hilarious if you were going to die. And again, instead, you're holding Beyond the Grave, and you've got the Excessus on, and you just, yeah. Oh, it's good times. There's also Defy the Chains. I think this is the weakest one, because you use this afterwards. After someone moves you or stuns you or spends you, you suffer a wound and it readies you. If you're a fighter, you get +3 attack. Again, doesn't really matter in Brikta, but yeah. So, yeah, then we're going to do 2 copies of Media at the end for some extra card draw. And then 3 copies of With My Last Breath. And 3 copies of Invulnerability Potion. So I brought both of these cards up with the Havel and Tansik Benedric combo. And, yeah, these, I think these are much better in Brikta than in Benedric. With My Last Breath is just after you suffer 1 or more wounds, you get 2 hit points till the rest of the turn. And Invulnerability Potion is a 6th level item. You toss it to get +2 armor class and +4 hit points. So again, every hit point matters with Brikta. So yeah, hopefully you have the Excessus on. You're holding, maybe 1 with My Last Breath, and you're saving it for some nasty surprise. And an Invulnerability Potion or 2. You pop them, and you just chainsaw, and it's beautiful. It is, I think it's worse than Winter most of the time, mostly because I consider Winter to be way more durable than Brikta because he's got his planar trait. The difference is Brikta can make all of this happen as she's attacking you. Like with Winter, sometimes you have to set things up. You have to, you have to play not Are You With Me? You have to play the Reckless Abandon. You're only really getting 2, maybe 3 strikes, and then you're readying, and then you let them do something. With Brikta, this comes out all at once. Like if she's popped 2 Invulnerability Potions, she might be sitting there with just 1+7, and then she spends to attack, and she might hit you, 8 or 9 times, and it's so much fun. It's so great. Rounding it out, we got a copy of Nodwick to try to make some extra use of those invulnerability potions. You can also use this if they discard your Excessus, which is kind of nice. And then a copy of Ring of Piercing. Ring of Piercing is one of the reasons why I'm okay with some of the bodies in here, because you can just turn them into melee strikes with it. When you play this, you can't play any other characters, so it's really the Hail Mary. But yeah, with everything else, it's Brikta. It's fun. So that is pretty much what I am doing with Brikta there. The success rate of this deck is not super high, but when it wins, it is an explosive, spectacular win, and it's awesome when it happens. Again, sometimes it's got some consistency issues. It's way more consistent than Havel and Tansik. I will say that, at least my version of Havel and Tansik. So some of the other things that I do want to include in here, or that are potential candidates. Now, Calamity Steel is a weapon that should work with Brikta, and I can't make it work. I've tried so many times, because in theory this should be awesome. After you kill an opposing character, you get +3 attack and +1 armor class at the end of the turn, and then if you're a barbarian and you have +24 attack or higher, which is really not that difficult to do with Brikta, you spend Calamity Steel to ready him. You can play things to ready items you have, like what is it, the not weapon shop, maybe it's called weapon shop, to ready this. There are things you can do with that. I just cannot make it work. I've tried, and I can't. I can do this with dwarves, no problem, but with Brikta, I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure the potential's there, and better people than me they're probably laughing right now, but that's fine. There's also Twist the Blade. Twist the Blade is basically an anti-buff action. You can use it twice. You can play it from your hand, and you can also play it from your discard pile. It's just very simple. React before making an attack. The attack ignores all AC bonuses from any source other than armor. You can't play this in, well, you can, but this doesn't work with the Benedric thing, because Benedric's not actually attacking. Brikta is, and so I don't think this is really necessary for all the reasons I said. Brikta's attack set gets really high, and so, but if you find it's not high enough for some reason, I mean, it is there, and it does work. Very solid. In addition to that, the Crazens can play it too. So if Brikta's, spent out, and all you have left is you could have a Crazen holding a Hero's Gambit, and that could end the game right there if they were relying on, things like Mass Blessing or other things buffing their armor class. So there is some merit to that. You can also add some extra things to do some little hit point things. You can play Bruntor's Helm. You can play Antlers of the Stag. You can play the Temple of Lore. Now, the Temple of Lore maybe it should be in here. It would shore up several problems. It would give Brikta the extra hit point, and it would give her some skill, which she kind of needs. The armor class thing is nice, and again, if you draw this along with the Axe Towers, you can make it so that not everything is just going to hit her. I have found with her, though, that with the character base I'm running, it's mostly because of Grease. This messes up your ability to play characters, and I've gotten so much use out of Grease and his reading ability, because it's 2 reading abilities, in one action, which is phenomenal. If you drop him and you decide you're going to shuffle the characters around so that you don't necessarily need to have some, rank 3 and rank 4 slots, you can run the Temple of Lore, and I think it would work just fine. Again, some of the things to buff skill, really, buffing Brikta's armor class with some of the stuff I'm running, I think it's largely a waste of time. Buffing her skill, I think maybe not, because it can suck if somebody, I don't know, they play, what is it, Crushing Hands? I think it's Crushing Hands. If they stun you and it's like, you can't do anything when you're stunned, it's just depressing. So something like Symbol of Kerberos, things that can give you skill might be kind of nice. And then rounding it out, again, I mentioned that I really like Grease's reading ability, because again, not even the stars are aligned, it's not that difficult to do. When you've got even just one invulnerability potion going off, and you've got 8 hit points, and you've got 6 or 7 wounds on you, readying to do an extra attack can be brutal when it happens, because it's so many extra strikes, and again, you're not giving them time to do stuff in between. It's not like Winter, where again, it's only 3, it's all 6. Or more than 6, it's all 12 or whatever. If you like reading, you can run some extra things. You can run a combination of Albino Novice and Unprepared for Battle, along with Decapitate. Decapitate readies you after you roll a critical success, and Albino Novice, after it dies, your next melee or range strike is a critical success. And Unprepared for Battle is just when you're punching someone smaller than you, and they have no items, the strike becomes a critical success. So you can use those to ready yourself with Decapitate. I think I started. That's originally what I was doing. It just wasn't consistent enough for me, and so I decided some of the other things would probably end up being a little bit better. Unprepared for battle is really not all that. It's not all that useful if you don't draw the decapitate because, again, once Brikta gets going, you're hitting everything. Like there's very few things that you're missing by virtue of their armor class. So maybe as a shore up against planar because planar is the worst thing ever. You could do that, but that is also an option. Yeah. Hopefully you found this entertaining and informative. If you have the chance, I don't think Brikta is. I don't think she's a good warlord because there's too many problems with her. Her armor class is too low. Her skill is too low. It's very janky, but it is an exceptionally entertaining deck to play, especially when you get again you get the combo. You get the Nodwick, you get the potion, you get the Excessus, and you get like I don't know something to move you forward, two things to move you forward, and you just go to town. It is just okay. Yeah. I'm waffling. So thanks for checking this out, guys. Excuse me. See, I'm getting carried away. God bless you, and I'll catch you in the next video.